the slide, Nitin, you showed empathy, compassion. So since lunch and me, so I'm showing empathy and compassion by not having a PPT. I'm reducing the content so that, I said that's also ethics, to be sensitive to the needs. I think you couldn't have set this timing better coming after, talking about the Tata Group. So the subject that I'm going to talk on is ethics. And what is it that all HR professionals are trying their best to do for organizations? You all can answer, and even if, don't worry about the mic. What is it that HR professionals are trying to get their organizations have a good or effective culture? So I feel that if you look at an ethics culture, all of it would be sorted. So if you have an ethical culture, whether you're talking of attrition, you're talking of employee engagement, or you're talking of reducing frauds, all of that would be sorted out. And in all my teachings, I don't ask it in corporate setup, but when I'm teaching at institutes, my first question is, name one ethical company or group in India. And what's the name that comes? Invariably. It does not mean that there aren't other companies which are as good or nearly as good. I have experienced so many positive experiences with so many companies, but they stand taller, they stand a little ahead of others, and that's something. Then I ask the flip side, name one unethical company. And again, invariably, I used to get the same name. I'm not quoting it, but now there are two fighting for it, for that space. So this is when you may not have had a direct experience with the Tata Group, you may not have a direct experience with a company which you consider unethical, but we form a perception about a company from listening, seeing, all of that. I will just quote, J.R.D. Tata had mentioned in one of his quotes, wherein he said that if we were as unethical as some of the other companies, we would have been twice as big. So this was somewhere in the 90s that it was said, we would have been twice as big. Today, I disagree with that point because I feel you're big because you've done the right thing. So it's not, so I'll be talking about whatever I'm going to discuss. I'm going to ask you a few questions every time between a choice between two things. So if I ask you, is it a cost or an investment? Is ethics a cost or an investment? So how many would say that it's a cost? Please raise your hand, so this also makes you a little active. How many say that it's a cost to be ethical? No one? How many say that it's an investment to be ethical? Okay. Now, sometimes we are sitting in a classroom or we are sitting at a conference and we say this and it seems the right. But most of the time when people talk to me one-on-one and they say business and ethics, does it go together? I was sitting on a flight coming to Delhi for a program and there was a politician next to me and he asked me, what do you do? So I said, business ethics. He said, "Ye ka hota hai?" So he said, it doesn't really happen. And then he realized that it's sounding a little bad. He's a public figure. He said, yeah, it's very, very important and companies must, Sucheta Dalal, I'll introduce you to her and all those kind of, he tried to cover up. And I've seen that as a common response. When I started my PhD in 2008, that was it, that it's not going to work, it's an oxymoron, business and ethics doesn't go together. But by the time I completed it, I see a different reaction. Yes, it's important. Yes, it's relevant. Yes, we need to. It may be difficult, but we still need to. I'll give you 3 quick incidents about my life, because you may wonder, why is it that I went and I did my PhD? I'm sure no one heard my introduction, because that's something that, most of the time we are so tired of all of that. So I've done my PhD in business ethics from BITS Pilani. Much later on in my life. I started working in 92, but I started in 2008. And so 3 incidents are, 28th of December 2008 was when my research proposal got accepted. Something happened in corporate India, one of the biggest scams in the first week of Jan. Do you remember? The Satyam scam. 1 week later, till then I was studying Enron, WorldCom, all of that. And the moment this happened, I said, I'm on the right track. This is relevant. This is important. Second, completed my journey. And I used to do behavioral skills training before that, and I realized that this is the subject. So I've quit doing everything other than teaching, talking, consulting, only in the space of ethics. So I found my purpose in life. Completed my PhD in 2015, 2016, I started my company, ETHICSINDIA. I made my website. 6th November 2016, I said, ETHICSINDIA goes live. Something happens 2 days later. Bad with dates. Demonetization. People have different feelings, opinions about it. I felt it was a fight against corruption. So I was like, yes. That was the second message that, yes, the universe is talking to me. Something that I'm doing. My friends were like, every time you decide to do something, something happens. 2017, my company got acquired by Legasis, which is a legal tech firm. It's a leader in compliance solution. We have 3,000 clients, including 70 of the Tata Group companies using Legatrix to make sure that they comply. And we say compliance by choice and not as a tick box. Got acquired in 17. That was the time my daughter went on a Rotary Youth Exchange to Belgium. When you go for this program, you are not allowed to go and drop them. You can't visit them till the district tells you, okay, and you are hosting another child with you. So I'd send my nephew to Brazil. I had a girl from Poland, Mariana. I sent my elder daughter to France. I had Anna from Germany. And then my daughter went to Belgium, and I had Emma from Spain staying with me. February 2018, they said, yes, you can come and visit her. You know, as a parent, you're like, I want to see how she's doing. I went to visit her, February, Belgium. A news broke out in India. Big scam. Anyone? Person. Diamond. Nirav Modi. So he comes from Antwerp, Belgium. You'll say, big shot, long shot. Not so powerful. Right? He was my direct neighbor back home. Grosvenor House, 2 flats. Next to me stays Nirav Modi. Of 1.2 billion people, you think, so this was another message to me that what I need to do. So my friends were like, hey, you didn't teach Nirav ethics. So I said, no. The moment I started doing my PhD, he moved to Samudra Mahal, and this flat was then used by his mom. Just sharing this because what happens is that whenever we want to do something or we decide to do something, universe, you said destiny. Nitin said destiny. I completely, I don't even know how I picked up subject of ethics. Could be the influence of my father. But I don't even know how I reached there, and I found it my calling in life. I found my purpose. I feel a satisfaction. And the fact that every day we get some inquiry or some work means we are moving ahead. You may say that, and for me, thinking of India as a corrupt nation, you know, people very aram se say, oh, highly corrupt and this. It used to hurt me. And I said, no, we are not so bad. Because if we were so bad and if everyone was corrupt, no one would have an advantage by being corrupt. Because if everyone is corrupt, no one gets an advantage. It's because a larger chunk of us are doing the right thing that a fewer who do the wrong thing would get an advantage. So that's the optimistic side, and that's me believing that, because I'm working from 92, I have not had a single client tell me to either fudge a bill or do something wrong. Maybe the good companies ask me, and this is, I'm not talking only about ethics-related work, when I was doing behavioral skills. There are lots and lots of people doing the right thing. We need to start catching people do the right thing rather than the wrong. But when you talk of the stories, and I can't share positive stories so clearly because I think most of the time we don't want to identify kya hoga if we find that they are doing something wrong. Like Satyam case, them getting the Golden Peacock Award was the most cited example. Ki, arey, they got a good governance award and then see what they did. So we are very, not so easy to find, other than the Tata Group, which we keep talking about. I would say Wipro. I heard the HR person say that not even once did Mr. Azim Premji send a note saying, dekh lo, you know, see this person. He stood by it and said that not even once did he put that pressure. So there are lots. And it doesn't mean that 24 hours, 365 days, I or you, someone has never done anything wrong. Is that possible? So then how do we say that we can, what am I promoting? What do you think should be the approach, or how will we say that this person is a person of integrity, this is a person of character? When you speak of resilience, I will keep coming back to Nitin, because for me, the Tata Group makes my life easy in India to talk about values, to talk about ethics. So we talk of resilience, but when you look at the word integrity, does something stand out in integrity? Grit. Integrity. And I say grit is the one. So it's like resilience. It's something wherein you don't give in. It is the character that we are talking about. All of us have a possibility that we might end up doing something wrong, do you think? Yes or no? Jitna respond karenge, utna faster I complete, that faster we go out. You don't respond, I'll have to give you more and more examples. Yeah? So, grit is not giving up. All of us have the possibility of sometimes falling prey to something wrong. So I'll tell you a story of Abraham Lincoln. There was a lady who came up to him, and she wanted to sue the owner of a bank. And she said, you know, they have done wrong to me, so I want you to fight the case. $5 is what I will be paying you. Those were the days. And he said, yes, I will fight this case. Then comes the owner and tells Abraham Lincoln, what is this? You know, you're fighting this case for her, and for $5, I'll give you $10. Abraham Lincoln says, no way. The lady deserves to fight. He says, I'll give you $20. Abraham Lincoln says, no. He says, I'll give you $50. Abraham Lincoln says, no. The person is about to say, I'll give you, and Abraham Lincoln picks up the person and pushes them out of the office and says, go away from here, I don't want you. So his colleagues were like, hey, what happened? This man kept offering you and you were able to, you know, calmly say no. Why did you get so agitated? So he said he was about to reach my prize. So that's something that all of us can. Maybe I'm not being offered 2,000 crores and I can stand here and say I'm absolutely ethical. So we don't know. So understand what's your line, what's the line you don't want to cross, how close to the line do you want to stand. Ethics and values, when you want to define it, I say values is what sets priorities. It motivates us to operate in a particular way when we talk of values. And ethics sets boundaries. Do not cross that. So I feel that's the simplest definition of values and ethics. Sets priorities and sets boundaries. So when I spoke of cost or investment, yes, even my thesis is called Ethical Business Practices, Corporate Financial Performance. I wanted a belief that it's beneficial to be ethical. Till then, it was always cost, cost, cost. Oh, you know, long term kaun dekha, you know, short term mein to cost hi ho jata hai, so I don't want to do the right thing. But now it's been looked as an investment, and a lot of research is showing that yes, there is a positive benefit or reputational advantage to being or operating with ethics. Ethisphere, which ranks 100 companies on, you know, ethics, the top 100 companies, they found data to support that they outperform, the list of companies who come in this outperform the market by 12.5% over the market over a 5-year period. So there is a financial benefit also, because everyone, when you're talking business, you want to be convinced that there is a financial benefit to operating with ethics, and there is substantial data, and you know reputation. One of the groups is in the big news right now. We don't know what the issue is, whether it's wrong, right, but the amount of money the market has lost. So you know the power of reputational damage that can destroy you, that can make people lose so much. So there's an advantage, and not just advantage from finance, which most business people want to look at, but there are attrition. one of the students was asking about attrition and why is it that there's more attrition. I feel all of this is going to have an advantage. If you operate with ethics, you tend to attract better talent, you're able to retain better, you are able to sustain that and create that culture. So there are many other advantages which come operating with ethics, and there is enough research to share that. So we are convinced, I know no one raised their hand for it's a cost. Heart of heart, there will surely be some people who do still feel that, and they still believe that, but sometimes in front of people, oh, I want to say the right thing, I want to do the right thing, I don't want to show that, you know, this is the way it is. But it's an investment, and we need to. Second question I'll ask you, is it an individual or the employee's responsibility to ensure that we operate with ethics, or is it the organizational responsibility? So how many say it's the employees and individuals and good people will end up creating a good culture? Raise your hand. Shan se. So, you know, some people raise this much. What does that mean? Depends. Or too tired to. If you know what? Dar ke. Yeah. Okay. How many say that it's individual? Again. Okay. How many say it's the company responsibility to be, you know, create an ethical culture, or ends up? Both option diya hi nahi maine. In life, we always look for depends on the situation, both options. No tension then. We are right, sometime at least. And that's where I'm coming to. I feel there is a larger responsibility of the organization. Individuals, there is one data, it's not researched, but with my interaction, I've discussions, and now it's being quoted, is 10% of the people will be ethical no matter what. 10% of the people are going to be unethical no matter what. 80% are, you know, conducive to be influenced. Idhar bhi 10-10 hai. So 80 would be conducive to being influenced, and I feel that's the time the organization processes, the organization's values, the organization's systems will ensure that I follow, because I am willing to align with the values of the organization. See, whatever I say is what my thoughts, my process, and my experience is sharing. It does not mean that everyone's going to agree with it. You may have a different experience, you may have a different thought process, but I feel a larger. In the book Value Shift, one of the data is that 80% of employees operating in a corporate setting took a decision that 97% thought to be personally against their values. So you're seeing, I may feel it's not right, and I still end up doing it because I feel maximum times I get to from an organization is that the employee does something wrong thinking it will benefit my organization. They are not doing it for personal gain, but I'm doing it, taking a shortcut or trying to fudge something to make my customer happy or make my client happy. You end up doing it thinking that I'm going to benefit the organization, and it may even be against. So lots of companies tell me that I want this message out that no, don't do it. We are not interested in you doing the wrong thing to have an advantage for the individuals. Again, companies ask me, can we hire value-based people? Can we hire ethical? I'm not confident about any of our questionnaires being able to assess. But as interviewers with experience, I'm sure you will be able to ask the right questions, get a feel of where you are picking up the right people within your organization. Because imagine you're getting the people who align to your value-based culture, your systems are in place, you would not have many of the problems or challenges that destroy a company. Because companies get, do you know how much Volkswagen lost after the Dieselgate scam? Any figure? They were fudging data so that when the car was being tested, it showed that the emission norms, it's within the limit, even 50 times higher, the environmental. Do you know how much they lost? Just figure. फेंकने में क्या जाता है? Na, far. 30 billion, including fines and lost market cap and whatever business. I was asked to speak to their, after this event, they had some program called Together for Integrity, and they were covering everyone, and they were doing training for everyone. I believe, I would have said that at the end, but I'm saying it right now, proactive ethics. If 10% of that money was spent in building the ethical culture, you wouldn't have reached there. But what we do is reactive. Something goes wrong, that's when we are going to. 1.5 to $2 trillion, what do you think this number is? See? He's smiling. It's the amount of cash which is exchanged as bribes annually. We're not talking of other bribes. So World Bank and International Monetary Fund has given now this data, and that's why you have a range, 1.5 to 2. You can't get the exact figure out. So I said, let's look at something positive. So how much do you think is the CSR that is done annually worldwide? Any figure? 1/3 nearly. So 500 billion. But still, I say it's a positive space. So wrong does happen, doesn't happen only in India, but we as HR professionals can work to creating that whole environment wherein the processes are in place, wherein we hire. It's very easy for us to justify and say, few bad apples, they are the ones who caused this. So another question, do you think more wrongdoing happens at bottom or middle or senior? Okay, because they have larger influence and all of that. But when we do training, pehle junior ko karo. We lose out on the whole impact, right? Do you think competitive pressure leads to wrongdoing, or do you think success leads to wrongdoing? We would like to believe it's competitive pressure. Success. There's an amazing paper which you can read, the Bathsheba syndrome, and it talks of the whole story of how it is success which leads to more wrongdoing. So it's not because of, and we justify it, competition isliye, we have no choice but we have to do this. There will be, but leads to it, because what happens is that you think you're right on top, you get complacent, you lose focus, you've done it, you've worked really hard. Cases like the Rajat Gupta case of insider trading, and that's, those are justifications of, how things go wrong. So you feel you've reached right on top, I will be complacent, I will, lose sight of it. You have full control of the resources. You feel you can influence the outcomes. Itna power hai. Again, Abraham Lincoln, they're saying this is not really his quote, but he says that if you really want to test a man's character, give him power. That's when you know whether the person is operating. But, so success leads to, so we need to be, they become even more isolated. You don't, I think someone mentioned in the morning that, no one's telling them, I think Dr. Anita mentioned that, you're not hearing or you're not getting inputs from others. So you tend to get a misguided sense of that I can do what I want to do. You spoke of psychological safety, which is one of the, what is it that organizations can do? Create that environment wherein, what? Wherein you can speak up, reduce that. So you can speak, you can listen, and readiness for be alert to it. I say, look at your anti-retaliation policy. Most of the time we don't speak up or we don't want to whistleblow is because there is no anti-retaliation policy, or that's not very well in place. And people tend to be fearful of what they do. If they stand up, someone's going to pull us down. So what, according to you, is a good culture? When you say ethical culture, what should it have? 2 or 3 things, if we can get from you. Transparency, honesty, making self and others accountable, setting examples. And I think that comes out as a very, very important, because when we're talking of leadership or we're talking tone at the top, if you walk the talk, it's sorted. There is a big gap between what we say and what we do. Simply, today we have mobile phones, but one of the simplest examples is that when the phone used to ring, many parents tell their child, "Bol do, Papa ghar pe nahi hai." Yeah? At that point of time, and after that you will say, you must be honest and you must not cheat and you must not do that. Does that work? You have shown through action that that's just words and you don't mean it. Can an individual make a difference? I'll give you the most cliched example. Oh, traffic signal, middle of the night, no one on the road. Will you stop at the signal? Yeah? He said, "Pagal hai kya? Rukunga to someone will say, gada hai, stupid hai." Right? Most of us will not stop. Okay, raise your hand. How many will stop? A nice conference. How many will not stop? Don't look at them. Don't look at them. We will not look. Okay. No, I'm talking of when we know we are not being watched. See, when we are being watched, see, ethics is not something you do when it's convenient or comfortable. It's when nobody is watching also do you do it. Yeah? So most cliched example, half said yes, we will stop, half said we will not stop. Now, think of it. Same time, middle of the night, there's somebody who stops at the signal. You are the one behind. Are you more likely to stop? Yes? So you're more likely to stop. So that's the power of one. And why can't I be that power? And why do I wait for somebody else to do that? So when we voice or we question in an organization, sometimes I say, I'm so junior, I can't make a difference. But question and see. Maybe nothing happens, but maybe something happens. And that's the belief that you, and especially as HR professionals, must go with. So I want to end, no, this, enough time. You want to?
It's up to you.
Okay, so just we'll look at closing examples of one, when we said trials and triumph. It is how organizations deal with, everyone got excited and then we diffuse the excitement that I'm ending. I'll wind up because I will leave. I want you to go away with questions. I want you to go away with thoughts. I want you to go away with finding out more, reading more, because the more we discuss ethics, the more we talk about ethics, the more awareness that is there, we are more likely to operate the right way. So when we talk of trials and triumphs, how do companies which end up doing something wrong deal with it is what reflects their true character. So it's not that we are not going to make a mistake. It's not that we are not going to do something wrong, but how do we recover from it? How do we deal with it? How quickly we do that is what. So I'll give you one. It's a negative story about this Ford Pinto case, wherein they came up in the 60s with a car under $1,000. And when they actually tested it, they realized that the fuel tank was getting damaged, and there's a possibility that the car would get into flames. So what do you think a company should do when you find something before you launch it that there is something wrong? What do you do? Withdraw, rework. But when you said competitive pressure also is there, will you be able to do that? So most of the time in businesses, we are taught cost benefit. So when we look at the cost, so they looked at cost. If so many litigation happens, so many accidents happen, so many lives are lost, a value to human life also, because what's the compensation that has to be given, all that was calculated. And the changing of the fuel tanks, the total cost for all what was already developed was there. And they decided to go ahead with it. The person who was in charge of quality at that point of time, later on had become a consultant and was teaching. He says, while we were in the system, it didn't even cross my mind. We are looking at cost and benefit. But when I'm out of it, I'm like, what did we do? So that's what businesses often do. So end with a positive story. Johnson & Johnson has had issues. So that's why it's not that you will always have good stories. But one of the best stories is, you'll find very Merck, which dealt with the river blindness, and Johnson & Johnson, there's a positive story to it, is that they have their #1 product, which was Tylenol, like our Crocin, that was a paracetamol. It reached a point wherein 5 people died after consuming it in one state. So quickly, the company started trying to find out how it happened. So they realized that it didn't happen at the manufacturing. Maybe somebody tampered with it, could be a competitor, and 5 people died consuming it. It only happened in one state in the United States. What should they have done? Should they recall? Yeah? So you can recall only from that whole state. Is that fine? See, when we are not taking the financial, it becomes very easy. I always say sitting in a classroom becomes very easy for us to take decisions. But that's what they did. They recalled complete millions of dollars they lost, recalled all of it, tried to find out. By the year end, they came up with tamper-proof bottles, and they went on back to be #1 in that product. So that's what, how do you deal with trials? How do you deal with it and make a comeback? That is what is important. So for each one of us, we may slip at times. We're not going to be, but what is our first choice? Is it always to take a shortcut, or is it to take the tougher path? Because the tougher path is, they are our defining moments. They are the ones which make our character. They are the ones which build our character. And what do you want to be known as? What do you want to be known for is what's important. Or do you feel it's okay, chalta hai attitude, I'll do whatever. My dad, whenever he used to face any problem, he used to, gas nahi aaya, seedha chairman. Telephone, chairman. He was fighting for the Honda, something had happened, so he wrote to the consumer court. And every time he could not go for it, I had to go for those cases. And I used to be like, Dad, what is this? So much of my time is getting wasted. He says, this chalta hai attitude is what? If each one of us decides, I will not do it. But what we do, we keep our eye on others. They are taking a shortcut. So we are getting penalized because someone else is taking a shortcut. But if each one of us decides that I will not do it, you will have the advantage. And you will have the kind of character. There's a sense of pride. And how do you want to live your life? And how do you want to be known your life? So 2, 3 quotes that I love is, our lives begin to end the moment we are silent about things that matter. It's Martin Luther King Jr. And I feel that stop being silent. Stop being a silent spectator. Managing businesses only for profit. So managing only for profit is like playing tennis with your eye on the scoreboard and not on the ball. So I leave you with these thoughts. I hope along with the food you can digest some of this. and mull over it, and I'm open to any questions if you have. Yeah. Is she raised? And then you.
And I have given lots and lots of induction policies, values के ऊपर presentations. I have faced this question, ma'am, and I would like to pose it to you. What is an ethical approach to deal with an ethical conflict? As you had also given an example, कि value conflict होती है कभी-कभी. When we are trying to do something right for the company, we may be doing something wrong for something in other area. So what is an ethical approach to deal with an ethical conflict? Gray area, dharam sankat. उसके लिए क्या किया जाए?
Okay. Simply look, one is a very easy way, look at your code of conduct. What is the company that's standing for? What are the values that they want you to have? And if you're faced with a dilemma, go to that, look at it. No one wants to read the code of conduct. The Tata code of conduct is huge, and I just wonder how anyone's going to be able to. So no one loves policies that they're going to go and see it. But if you bring it to life, if you talk about it, you actually talk of, because if you look at a pharmaceutical industry or a manufacturing setup or a service industry or a financial, there are different dilemmas that they would be. And if you place that in your code of conduct and you give a direction, and fundamentally what does the person right on top say and do? There is a gray also, but I also think we know what is right, what is wrong. So we create that gray because of self-interest or some other factors. So choose right, wrong is very clear. That's what I think. Code of conduct, go back to, look at what's the philosophy of the organization and what the person is talking. So I don't know if, yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. One last question.
Yeah. I finished early, then also you're doing one last question.
You rightly said most of the ethics compromise because of success. That's probably a race of that. And I've seen in my one of the previous organization, I'll not name it, because when we encountered one person.
It's always the previous organization, it's never current.
Yeah, yeah. Not a problem of naming, but probably the content was that when we inquired into that, an organization is quite ethical, but we came to know that success, month on month, he was achieving targets. So probably he chose a route which is not totally unethical, but as a being ethical organization, we asked and taken actions. But so my question is that when competitive pressure is not causing so much challenge to be ethical, what is that differentiating factor? Because you did a study and you had a maybe number of organizations you must have gone through. Is it only leadership drives that ethics in the organization? Because I've seen organizations are only not a policy-led, more of an individual-led organization. And they are the ethics creation more I have seen so far. But do you think, for a benefit of all of us, what does still that differentiating factor, which organizations are closer to that ethics, or they are most of the time ethical, apart from leadership and walk the talk?
So leadership, walk the talk, training is, some of the things that would ensure that. Who do you think people go to when they see something going wrong? Do they go to the whistleblowers, vigil mechanism, the helpline? It's not used as much as we think it is used. So who do you think they go to? Usually, if you trust your immediate superior, there's data to prove that they first go to that person. So when you're building that, creating that, each one of us is a possibility of influencing the person. If they don't trust you, they would go maybe to someone who's, bypass you. But usually they come to you. So it is the responsibility of each and every person. And that's why one of the solutions that I give to organizations is what's done in the Tata Group. You have ethics counselors, you have ethics champions. And I'm seeing more and more companies create these roles, dual roles, wherein you are an ethics champion or you are an ethics counselor, so that people can, come to you if they are in a state of doubt. So I don't know if that partly it gives you, but it's everyone's responsibility, not just the leaders, but they can have maximum influence. There is one interesting data in the Ernst & Young integrity report where it shows that the juniors think that the ethical culture is worse than it actually is. So it's not as bad, but they think it's very bad. And the board and the senior management think it is better than it actually is. So there is that huge gap. We think it's bekar and they think it's wonderful, and we need to get that closer, and you can do that through your training and HR and getting that picture. Last question, am I allowed?
One last, yes.
See, the predicament is that as an individual, I have a very strong value system, which I strictly, religiously follow at home with family and my other networking. The problem is that I'm not telling my own example, I'm just on behalf of you, which we all are facing, must be, that the organization where you are working does not have that strong value system, right? Because it all goes on your achievements, then your KRAs, and based on that your promotion and increment, how best and how fast and how effectively you deliver the results. Naturally, it doesn't happen with ethical approaches. I mean, most of the time. If you have to give some consent from the Pollution Control Board, some license from explosives, kind of a thing. My personal system, value system does not allow me to, bribe the person and get the license. Rather, I would try to impress upon him about the genuineness, about the correctness, about my legal compliances at the plant or office level, what we are doing, then why we should not get. Now, this situation is very conflicting situation. One should
so you're
find
saying
the
that
way forward.
So you're saying your values do not permit, but the organization expects it of you at times.
At times it may so happen that fellow has to surrender for the organizational
Okay,
job.
let me
so
tell
that is a problem.
Got it.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, more and more work that I'm doing is where companies are saying, we want the employees to follow the policies and follow the code. And they're spending so much time and effort. Just on Monday, I did it first with the leadership team. It's a Denmark-based company. And then they're saying we're going to take it down. They're saying we want people not to bribe. This is the common expectation that we want them, and people are expecting it, and the organization. So there may be organizations which will do. Pharma companies, I keep here, multinationals say, we can't compete with the Indian market because the Indians companies don't have any rules and they are willing to. Though they have a strong marketing code, the government has put that in place, but still they may not follow it. So here you're talking of the reverse, where the organization doesn't have strong policies. That's why, yes, and that's why I said that the organization has a bigger role to play, a bigger responsibility, but I am quite positive about the way it's going. And fundamentally, how do you approach? Do you believe it, that it's wrong? You will work differently. We had a charitable organization. For that, the ATG certificate, initially you had to keep going. Now it is indefinite till it gets cancelled. Earlier, every year we had to go and get it renewed. And I would go and imagine we are doing charity, we are doing good work, but still I would have to sit at the, that's where my dad, he said, you know what? They ask you for 10 papers, go with 20. Go with every documentation that they can even imagine or don't expect. And you sit there. I have sat and got things done because he says bribe is not an option. The CA used to tell us that, oh, Sinka file na jara, they saying idhar se milega nahi. But they know there are 10 other people willing to give. So that's why you can, why the Tata Group will be able to get away in customs or get away without paying bribe, because they know there are 10 other companies which are willing to. So you have to build that reputation for yourself, build it for your company. Not an easy task, long task, but as again someone said, it's a journey, and start on that journey. It is exciting, it is satisfying, it gives you a sense of purpose when you are known to be someone credible, you're known to be someone with integrity, and leave organizations which don't align with your values. There is exit is a strategy. You can leave and join. We think loyalty is, supporting them. No. You decide which battles you want to fight. And the third one is advocacy, speak up, question, and I'm telling you that will make at least some people take a step back. Yes? Okay, thank you, bye-bye.